Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Uncut and After Show. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they premiere, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Also below this video you can get £50 for swapping your UK electricity supplier to Octopus Energy, and this is a particular note if you drive an electric vehicle. Speaking of Patreons, I'm going to do a quick shout out to all of you who do support me on Patreon, so a massive shout out of thanks and appreciation to Fibre Oats, Bogey, Michael Kahn, Sarah Griffiths, Rob H, Ben White, Maximum Gravy, John Kays, Tommy Swagnuts, Patrick Gunnels, Banter, Will Brax, Mel B Styles, Troy Shuker, Bose Nail, Hairy Blade, Mobile Max 777, Neo the One, Lost Cat FE, Rob W, Open Minded, Reese Pound, Del West Watson, Muted, Maria Neelands, Unbelievable Productions, Blue Ridge Ranger, The Real Gabster, Liam Nedrick Jr., Abraham Mohammed, Adrian Quintana, Skeptic936, Life is Short, Texas Mike, and David Wayne Foster. So another massive thank you to all of you for supporting me on Patreon. Now I will hand over to whoever is in Discord and Google so you can enjoy their dulcet tones while I set up for today's live show.
I remember somebody else teaching somebody else this lesson because he had somebody under him, right? And then when it was time for him to go on his own way, the Lord said him, don't supply him, don't support him.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Because he has to learn to rely on me, not on you.
Right.
Right?
That's not that. I was just, even that, I was just like, I was in awe at the man. I was in, you know, you got to go Google Times Square Church and grab a couple of his sermons. I'll give you one to get. If you could find Trust in God for an Enlarged Heart, Times Square Church, if you could find that one, listen to that one and you'll know what I'm talking about.
So what happened? You don't go there anymore? Or?
Yeah, it's true. We watch it online. It's not the same as it used to be. I think that was years ago. He stepped down now and just turned the church over to another pastor, Pastor Tim Delana, and they're going in a different way. You know, hiring CeCe Winans and Natalie Grant to do the worship. These are all like professional people. It costs like $90,000 for them to do a service. Like, why are you even going that way? I don't know.
Well, you should find somebody else to follow. Like, if you find another one where you have a peace about, right?
You follow Jesus.
For me, it's go on.
You follow Jesus. That's who you follow.
Exactly. That's what I do. I do home church now. Oh,
yeah,
Nathan's
I do home
here.
church.
Hey, see you later, guys.
All right, see you on the panel.
I'm going G+.
Nathan, you there?
Yeah.
Is that you, Tent?
Yeah, that's me. Who else could it be?
You're really quiet.
Is my mic?
Neil was super loud and you're super quiet.
How's my sound, Nathan?
Yeah, good.
Yeah, same place it was yesterday. I'm going to post 3 slides, Nathan, if you have time for them.
Okay.
Let me see if I want in this order or not. Hold on one second. But it doesn't matter. I could have you switch. It's only 3, so let me post them. It's going to be in, let's see, Masterby. All right.
Nope.
98, 100%.
Okay. Which one do you want to start with? Zenith angle?
Yeah, let me just go there and pull it from there rather than my photo. Yeah, Zenith angle. So you can see here, and there's a lot of these, but we just constantly have to remind everyone what the sextant does and what the terms mean. So zenith angle. The zenith angle is the angle between the sun and the vertical, which is that dotted line. The zenith angle is similar to the elevation angle, which would be from the adjacent to the sun. That would be the elevation angle from the horizon. Let me repeat that. The zenith angle is similar to the elevation angle, but it is measured from the vertical rather than from the horizontal, thus making the zenith angle equal 90 degrees minus the elevation. So, of course, with the sextant at C, you're using the horizon as the zero baseline and first getting the elevation or altitude, that angle. Then it's very simple math. You minus it from 90. There's the box. Now, the box here is where the observer is. When we show it in the other way, the box is directly where the sun's GP is to the observer. So if you get rid of that dotted line that represents the zenith angle, you could see you have a dotted line to the sun, and the sun would have a straight line where it's over the earth, and you could put the box there. There's your box. So first you must acquire an elevation angle, and to do that, you need a flat baseline. And then you minus it from 90, no other number. Well, there's your perpendicular relationship of two straight lines and the angle in between. And you're left with your zenith distance from the sun to where your zenith would be based on that vertical dotted line. We'll come back to this. Go to the next slide. SailNet. The angle from the celestial horizon through the body to the observer's zenith is always 90 degrees. This is why they hate 90. There is a definite relationship between the height observed of a body and the distance of the observer from the body's subpoint, meaning GP. The angular distance from the body to the observer's zenith is called the co-altitude, and of course is equal to 90 degrees minus the observed altitude. This co-altitude is also called the zenith distance. And when multiplied by 60, that would be your nautical miles, will give you the distance in nautical miles from the subpoint to the observer. When the body is directly overhead at the observer's zenith, the height observed is 90 degrees and the subpoint is equal to the observer's location since the distance is 0 miles. And then it gives you co-altitude equals 90 minus 90 times 60 equals 0 because you got, it's directly over you. When the height observed is 0 degrees, the body is on the observer's horizon, and the distance from the subpoint to the observer is 90 degrees, or 5,400 nautical miles. 90 minus 0 times 60. So that's 90 times 60. That's 5,400 miles when it's just over the horizon and you got the full gamut of 90 degrees in nautical miles. Zenith distance is used for the radius of a circle, which when plotted becomes the celestial line of position. The circle is called the circle of equal altitude because anyone located on it and viewing the body at the same time will have an identical height observed. Last slide. Okay, this one is an interesting one. And again, these are all from the internet, from sites that are pushing the heliocentric model and so forth. How can we estimate our latitude? Because we always hear the baller saying, section is for latitude, is for latitude. All right. Remember that the angle between the horizon and the object is called altitude. The altitude of the north celestial pole give us our latitude. Polaris is close to the north celestial pole. By estimating the altitude of Polaris, we can estimate the latitude of the observer. So what did they got in the picture depicting how they get the angle using a baseline and Polaris? What are those?
It's a lovely straight line they got there. No curved adjacent in that picture.
This is hilarious. Anyway, we can go back to that first slide.
Oh my God, it's over.
It's so the zenith distance is from the sky. It's your dotted line, your vertical in that first slide called the zenith angle, and you see the sun there. So you got to figure out the distance from the sun's zenith to your zenith, but you can't do that until you use the sextant to get the elevation angle first, and then it's always a subtraction or minus from 90, and the 90 is two straight lines. It's done.
Don't say 90.
Earth has to be flat for this to work. It's as simple as that. And you can't, I repeat, cannot beg the question of a sphere to do this, because you end up with a curved adjacent. None of it works. So it has to be flat. Earth must be flat for this to work. Does it work? Yeah, it does.
Why would I measure it on an angle? Of course it's flat.
Said the glober.
It's 90. Let's just, you remember when this all started dripping out? I say angle is going to kill the globe model. 90 is going to kill the globe model. The sun with its divergent rays will kill the globe model. The angle, just a definition in itself. What's a 90? The sextant is based on what we just went over. And so and they're saying you got to minus it from 90. Well, what's a 90? It's two straight lines that meet to create a 90 degrees. And that's why they always have that box there. It's there when you do the sun's GP, and it's there when you do your GP. And that creates the box. And so your distance measurement is not the elevation angle. It's the leftover when you minus it from 90, and it's from the sky. It's where the sun is and where you are as GPs, and it's an angular measurement using the map of the sky to show you where you are on Earth. The Earth part was the first measurement, the elevation angle. Now you want to figure out, okay, I'm this far away. What is that? And they got 60 nautical miles as the key number for that. Now, this is going to lead to something else I'm not ready to talk about yet, but let's just leave it at that.
Ooh, more stuff to come. So, 10th man, let me ask you a question again. You got all this information from how to use the sextant on flat Earth, right?
Well, it works only on the flat Earth because they keep showing us a box depicting a 90, but I got it from all of their sites where they think it's working on the globe. Because there are no flat Earth sextant sites.
I see.
Unless you come to this show, of course. Then we have to explain to you geometry.
Yeah, they got nowhere to go. But to join flat Earth and just acknowledge where you're at. Stop fighting.
Thank you, 10th. Brilliant stuff.
You're welcome.
I don't think it really matters what they believe, though, Neil. Believe.
Great.
Exactly. You hit the right in the head. What they believe. It's what they have is a belief.
And further to that, we shouldn't either. We shouldn't care, Neil.
Yeah, I don't care. My son came at me again last night, and now it's dinosaurs. Gosh, it's dinosaurs.
Should let him believe whatever he wants to believe?
Yeah, I kind of did. It always goes back to the 2 points in the sky. No matter how I explain to him, he's assuming a sphere. He's not getting it. So I gotta respectfully walk away.
Did he have a hard time taking it when he found out there wasn't a Santa either?
Well, maybe that's the problem. He never believed in Santa in the first place because I wanted the credit for the gifts, you know.
So you might say he had the presence of mind.
That's a good one.
I think I'm right. It's just he's far less likely to get laid if he's a flat earther than, instinct kicks in.
You always go into your primal roots, Nathan.
Yeah. And I don't mean it insincerely either. I mean it genuinely.
Well, he has to be married first, Nathan. It's got to be
Yeah.
done right. Sex is a great gift that God has given us, but outside the marriage bed, it's not. It's fornication.
You're missing my point. My point is that we are very base in terms of our feelings and thoughts towards things. Don't die, reproduce. That's it. Now, you can extrapolate out all sorts of religious implications and connotations and restrictions and rules based on what we basically have as our base instincts. Don't get run over by that bus. Ooh, that woman looks nice.
Of course, I know that.
Well, you can also look at it that God put a lot of the stuff in us in a proper way until the fall. And then it became improper because now we sin rather than obey God with these basic instincts that were there for a reason when we were holy. And now we're not holy, so we use it in the wrong way. It's like alcohol. I have so many people. See, I was raised in a European fashion. We're from another country. No one got drunk. People respected family, and we weren't even a Christian at the time. But the whole point is that culture that I grew up in didn't like look at drunkards and parties, a place to go get whacked. It just was shameful. So I come from that culture. So I grew up drinking wine and stuff like that and never had a problem with it. And then come to America and everyone here, oh, the taboo. And I mean, the Christian churches that I'm talking about. Oh, the Bible says you can't drink. And I said, no, it doesn't. I go, why do you twist the scripture? So I would go and show them scriptures where Jesus drank wine and that drunkenness was forbidden, but not wine. So sex is not forbidden, but outside of marriage is sinful. So there's a place for everything.
10th man, I've been told that it was grape juice that Christ drank. And don't cut me off. Let me tell you another one. I was also told that there's a book I could get you. It's called Sipping Saints.
I love it. Well, am I in it? Because I would be, I guess. Yeah.
My wife struggles with that too.
It started as grapes. It becomes wine. And Jesus said, John the Baptist came neither eating or drinking, and I come eating and drinking, and he called me a winebibber, because he sat with the sinners and preached the gospel. So, yeah, Jesus made a clarification that John didn't drink, but that he did.
Okay, thanks. So, meanwhile, I think your son is only interested in subject matters and pop culture things that are going to progress his lifestyle, let's just say, so we don't get into any weeds again.
Well, he doesn't
Clever.
He doesn't believe in evolution. I commend him for that. He knows that's nonsense. But he's using a dinosaur. In other words, he's saying if evolution were true, then we wouldn't have lizards today.
Okay.
That's not even true in their paradigm.
You've got to be careful what you decide that you're not going to believe, if you want to put it in air quotes, in. Also, so there's plenty of people out there that debunk current narratives. Let's not necessarily pick on dinosaurs, but dinosaurs if you like. But that ultimately just means the narrative that you're presenting as false is false. Yeah? So it's so often easy to throw the bathwater out. Baby out with the bathwater. In a better example, science. Science has lied to us. Science has told us we're on a heliocentric... No, it hasn't. Science has no lips. It's a method. It's a reification to say that science has deceived you. Science is a method. But you throw the baby out with the bathwater when you say, let's turn our backs on science. Whoa. It's been hijacked. Real science isn't what they were using. They were pseudoscientists. So yeah, turn your back on pseudoscience, but understand where they were using words they didn't have any clout with, like hypothesis, experiment, science. Well, they didn't have any of those things. They used the words to give themselves credibility. So don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. Science hasn't deceived you. It's progressed humanity in the most literal and real ways. So, just because people have hijacked it, don't assume that you've got a debunk to all things labelled science, or dinosaurs, or anything else. Narratives you pull apart, bear in mind that you're just looking at someone's isolated, focused, just so story about a specific thing. Now, in many instances, debunking the narrative doesn't necessarily debunk the thing as the whole. There's a lot more to it. Otherwise, we'd have one golden bullet. We wouldn't need a succession of things like the black swan followed by the elevation angle argument to put a lid on the entirety of it and leave them with nothing. Because you would have hoped you just present the black swan and that's the end of it, right? Well, no. Things aren't that black and white and simple. So you can't just say, well, because I've debunked gravity, Earth is flat. No, it's not that simple. Or because I've shown that you can't have gas pressure without a container, Earth is flat. No, it's not that simple. Further to that, you couldn't use it the other way around and say, just because I've shown that you can't have a curved adjacent when acquiring an elevation angle, space is fake and Earth is flat. No, there's more to it, isn't there? Yeah? So things often aren't that black and white.
Yeah, but
Can
I
add
don't
something?
care. I do not think dinosaurs existed. I looked into enough
me add
stuff
something.
to realize
In
that's
the
a bunch of
narrative
baloney.
in the narrative they present, I'd agree with you.
Well, Neil has a way in. If he said his son doesn't believe in evolution, you could just focus how the mainstream narrative is so bogus on that and how they keep pushing it, and just work with things where he's at. Like, work with him where he's at. And then once he sees that more clearly, he'll be more open to other things. Okay, well, if a narrative is bogus about this, and you made it so clear to him. Follow what I'm saying, Neil?
Yeah, he's set in his ways though. We don't have the conversation no more.
Well,
That's
just
it.
focus on the ways he is set, and just make those more clear, and then let him come to the realization.
Or give it completely, because he's at a point in his life where he's trying to cut the apron strings and be more independent. He's at that age. So you trying to have more influence while he's trying to cut those ties and become more independent will just mean you're cutting them. And with things that will put distance between you, have the apron string be something other than something you care deeply about. Because when it gets cut, that'll be the thing that is, severed permanently. You'll never be able to discuss it again. It won't be comfortable. It won't be. Whereas if you pick something else, how bloody messy the little sod is or something, I don't know, whatever. Have that be the thing that's, taking place while he's trying to gain his independence and be less influenced by you. You'll find a losing battle.
Clarification. Nothing will cause me to fight with him and things like that. It's all in a joking matter. That's my son. That's my blood. So that takes precedence over everything.
No, I agree, but he's still of that age that he wants to do the complete opposite to what your sentiment just implied.
Of course.
Right, well then everything I just
course.
said stands. It doesn't matter what you feel. No offence, but it's him and how he's going to be wanting to become more... all the things I've just said, I'm not going to repeat it again.
Yeah, I'm just saying it never turns into well, it gets hot sometimes. I gotta say that. It gets into a heated argument. But at the dinner table is where we do our discussions and I let him lead, because he's very smart. He does. He has a lot of knowledge on things. He researches things and he'll talk about a bunch of different things. I think right now he's into all the conspiracies. Like he's telling me about all these new conspiracies that are out. So, but it always never fails, winds up at flat Earth.
Which I don't consider... I consider Globe Earth a conspiracy, not the other way around. The controlled op narrative of flat Earth, yeah, that's conspiratorial. But I don't consider myself a part of that in the same way I understand the vein that Bev Try Thinking tries to portray when he says he's not a flat earther. The sentiment I agree with in its entirety. So, that which is labelled flat earth is part of a conspiracy, and many of the people in the arena that we're side by side with are part of that, which is unfortunate, because I definitely don't consider myself part of that. And there's many other people who've tried to phrase it in a way that makes it clear that you understand you've been lied to about being on a spinning water ball, and you understand potentially the nature of the flat plane that you're actually standing on, but it doesn't mean you're going to label yourself a flat earther, because that comes with a whole load of baggage that you don't necessarily buy into. Models, maps, reifications,
Communities.
of stars, communities, you name it. There's a whole bunch of shit that you don't need. Trust me. I mean, obviously, if you want part of that community, obviously that's up to you, but I just see it as part of a controlled op narrative that's been positioned to lay foundations for a straw man that you didn't necessarily knew you were claiming, but you probably are by that point, to be held up in false dichotomy by the opponent. So they can say, my model's better than your model. And your model you didn't even know was your model until you got into quote-unquote flat Earth.
Let me share something here. In the 70s, when I stood up to my teacher with that question about evolution, gravity, spinning, all this stuff, and his answer was, I don't even believe it. I just have to teach it. That was enough for me. Now, let's reverse the situation. Let's say I wasn't curious enough to ask those questions and didn't have an ounce of critical thinking skills at the time, which I did. That's why I asked the questions. I didn't see gravity. I didn't see this invisible force, so I questioned it. I couldn't believe that everything happened from a bang and with no design. I'm seeing all this creation stuff out there. And that was before I was even a Christian. It was so obvious that there had to be an intelligent creator that made everything. But let's reverse it. Let's say I went home and I told my dad about it. And he says, oh, yeah, there is this or there is that. I'd say, Dad, you didn't even go to school. You came here with $100 in your pocket and you're working 2-3 jobs a day. And I only see you sometime on Sunday. He worked his tail off. And so because of the school system I was put in, I'm thinking I'm here to learn, and my parents are sacrificing so that I can have an education they couldn't have. So of course it must be a true education, except in that system, I was questioning all the things they were teaching me because it didn't make any doggone sense, right? And so it's like the parents are trying to help their kids, but they put them in a system that lies to the kids. You follow?
Well, that's why we're homeschoolers for the last, let me see, 12 years. My wife has been homeschooled. 13.
Yeah, I
Actually.
homeschooled my kids and private schooled my kids when I could afford it, but I did both. I got them out of that system, and that's what Nathan's doing, which is good.
Well, it still brings me to the point where we still have to do something about the education system that's out there that's saturating our kids. I mean, not my kids, but other kids.
You are doing something. You're defunding them in the sense that you will no longer comply. And you will tell that to people, and they will start doing it.
I must be speaking French. I give up with you guys. You just don't understand what I'm saying.
What resources do you have to take on that system? Give it to me. I'll go fight with you. Show me the resources.
We can write a paper.
Like Anthony has been doing. Like Anthony's been doing.
Oh, Anthony's been doing it? Okay, great. Keep going.
Yeah, what happened when Anthony did it?
Well, you're not going to get results on one letter.
Nah.
Keep writing.
One letter. You've got no clue. I love it. One letter.
Well, 10 letters, 20 letters. You got to keep beating on the door.
Yeah, I told you yesterday. That's happening. Yeah, I'll shut you up.
I didn't hear you.
I said to you yesterday, that's occurring. That's happening. It's not one letter either, I assure you.
So why didn't you tell me that right from the beginning?
Read through it. Boring, endless length of it.
Well,
you didn't tell me that right from the beginning, and I would not even speak about it no
there
more.
you go.
Okay,
supposed
great.
to be on the lowdown, but there we go, talking about it on a recorded show.
Okay, sorry.
Doesn't Neil believe it's a controlled release?
Of course I do.
If you believe it's a controlled release, just sit back and enjoy the ride.
It's going to
come out at the pace they want it to come out then.
What context of a controlled release do you think it is, Righteous? What's the context for it?
Well, the context for me is if it's a controlled release, it's coming out at the desired speed that they want.
No, what's the context for lumping in this? Because there's other things that are being released.
Well, it seems like a lot of things in the past have been controlled release, and it seems like, yeah, well, first the past, and then just how things have been going in the community, and then with the censorship, and even how it was pushed at the beginning. It seemed like it was really like everywhere. You couldn't escape it. Hold on, okay, never mind. It seems like you couldn't escape it. It seemed like it was really.
How did it even come out?
You're missing my point.
All right.
Look at all the other, forget the topic we're about and look at all the other things. Pretty disturbing things out there right now when you start listing them. Hey, let me now talk as the releasers themselves. At least this is what I think might be happening. Hey, you know what? They're finding out a lot about the hoodwink. Let's throw in something in there as well and make it look like a conspiracy, even though we've hidden this from them. And then we'll label them because they'll look crazy with the other stuff.
Ah, the old double bluff switcheroo. Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe. Hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Also below this video, you can get £50 for swapping your UK electricity supply to Octopus Energy. And this is a particular note if you drive an electric vehicle. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show on Facebook and Twitter. Now, we are joined by, I'm guessing, Arwin, right in the middle of my intro. Yes, indeed it is. We're also joined by 10th Man, Neil, Refracted Curvature, 10th Man, and a whole bunch of people in Discord. So welcome, one and all.
Good morning.
Hey, Arwin, where you been?
And
And what?
Yeah,
I
you
wanted to
announced
quickly
10
round out the
twice.
thing with me and Neil. Like, I know Ted wanted to go with it in another direction, but I just wanted to hone in on Neil's position. If he believes the controlled release, he really shouldn't fuss. That was like my point I was trying to make.
Way to start the
should just-
live show with something totally unrelatable to anybody without any preface or summary. Thanks, that's really contextually brilliant for the live audience. So I really appreciate that.
Well,
They'll
that
find out
promotes
on
people
that
to go
re-up.
check out the pre-show, so you get
Definitely,
more
you
views on
should
the pre-show.
subscribe today if you don't want to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 member and get it pretty much immediately. Then 2 or 3 days later, you can get it from my second channel for free. That's Nathan Oakley. Subscribe today. I agree. Then you'll know exactly what context it was, rather than my earbending I gave Righteous for launching straight into a discussion that no one's got any idea about what they're listening about. Because that's, a good plug opportunity. Thanks. Good get out. You got there. As you know, I love to plug my own stuff.
Yeah, but Nathan, when I was just a listener and I would stumble across it and you just start the show with that, it would make me hungry for what I missed on the pre-show and be waiting at 5 o'clock for that release.
I just see it as terrible production. So as a summary, we're discussing about Neil's belief that the flat Earth, and I'm going to put air quotes around it and say, pizza pie maps, the false dichotomies that are thought about in the debating platforms that are out there, that flat Earth is a controlled release. And Righteous Force is of the opinion that if that is the case, what the hell are you worried about? Just sit back and enjoy the ride. You know, why are you even flapping? So that's where...
And not even...
Go on.
And not just to enjoy the ride, but just take advantage and like use it for the greater good, right? Just work with it, right? Just don't get like sweat. Just don't sweat about it because it's not getting released at the pace you want it to. But just work with it, right? Just. Anyways, I don't know. Maybe I should have interrupted you, Nathan.
No, it's good. It's good now. Not at all. Now that it's all been summarised and everyone
Yeah,
knows what we're talking about, the discussion may continue, unless that's where it naturally rounds out, in which case, fair enough, we'll do a bit of housekeeping.
Well, before
Neil?
you do it, there'll be no more fussing from me now that I know what's going on. You'll never hear me complain about the
No, you
school
don't get it.
system
Stop,
again.
stop. Like with Arwen, right? When I tell him to stop and he's unreasonable, that doesn't mean I don't want him to do it. As strange as that may sound, you're part of the show for a reason, and that's what you inject. So while we say stop moaning, it doesn't actually mean stop moaning, Neil. Unless it's about your car, then stop moaning.
Release Agent 10th back on the mic.
You got to understand, you develop that conversation. That's the good conversation, and after the fact, apologising, going, well, I won't do that again. So I'll get lost, don't come back. You've got nothing to offer then. Even though we're telling you don't do this, Neil. Stop doing that. Do this differently. It's because it's subject related and it's for the audience when we say stop doing that. I know we're telling you, but that's useful. It's hard to understand. You'll get it, I'm sure.
I think I can sum it up better.
Go ahead.
Nathan has chosen his panel as a cross-representation of what he perceives society to be, and you represent an aspect of that, Neil.
That's correct.
Okay.
You're our everyman. No offence. You're what we call salt of the earth.
Yeah, I got you. I'm happy.
It's not an insult. It's not an insult
Not
in
at
any
all.
way.
You're the best of the best.
I don't think it is.
You're the best of
It
the best
is.
salt of the earth. If you
No,
like.
it's an insult right away because he's the salt of the earth. Insult.
Boom, boom. That was pretty slick. Right, on that
I'm
note,
the man.
I am going to assume that conversation's naturally rounded out unless Righteous wants to continue it with something else.
I'm good.
Where's Arwen?
Arwen should join, hopefully. He joined right while I was doing my intro, and then he disappeared again. I was hoping to get an update. I tried to call him. I've sent him a message asking if you're okay. But then he joined in my intro, which got him an earbender before the live show even started, really. But there we go. So he's not come back.
He's having computer problems.
There you go. Nothing personal, as my assumption would indicate. I wish I could rewind time. But there we go, I can't. Let's do some housekeeping. Any evidence you can have occurred adjacent whilst acquiring an elevation angle?
No, it's impossible.
This, in combination with the Black Swan, is the end of globe Earth and the rise of flat Earth, in my eyes. There's no way around it.
And it's not over yet, according to 10th.
Indeed, it's not. There's many more to come, and the finale will be something no one even expects.
What's been happening up until now is this information in terms of the natural physical reality we're actually faced with has been held back, retarded by controlled opposition. So that retardation can't sustain the water forever. So think of it more as floodgates. There's going to be things putting pressure on those floodgates. And as a result, the patchwork, when a few spring leaks appear, are the anti-flat earthers. But in reality, what are they doing? You can't stop the flow of a physical reality that is obvious and observable to everyone standing on it. That won't continue forever. A lie eventually gets exposed. Now, all we're doing at the moment, or what we're witnessing, if you want to see it as controlled release or whatever we were discussing in the pre-show, we're holding back the water with floodgates. Eventually, they'll be breached. Now, for me, the start of that breach is when our opponents say, of course I'm measuring it flat, it's measured on Earth. And I say, well, you're supposed to be measuring it as a sphere, you think you're on a sphere, and the answer you get, this is where's Wally, is no, I'm not. Now, when you're at that point where, because they haven't got to the stage where they typically would beg the question of a sphere Earth and just assume their outcome, they can't even get there. That's the point that there's no ifs, no buts, no doubts, no maybes. We've won. So, what comes forth from here, Neil? Well, anybody who's come into the information won't be in any misapprehensions or misunderstandings about which way the argument has gone. Now, after the Black Swan, shocking as this may sound, your cursory glance from a normie sees refraction and goes, all right, no, there is an overcome to this argument. I'll get on with my day. That's with the surface level scratch of it, because there's those people putting the band-aids on the floodgates. Well, what band-aids have they put on this floodgate? What? That's what I'm asking with the curved adjacent question. What have they got other than to say, yeah, well, it's measured on an Earth, therefore it's flat? That's what we've been told so far. I'm not even joking. From Globers.
Their band-aid is they agree with us.
That's not a band-aid. That's a breach.
It's a reoccurring theme. It's been there all the time, and we've discovered it with Andrew Thomas Young when he said all his refraction studies were done on a plane. And then, because they assume they're on a sphere, geometric considerations were taken to make it work on a sphere with the math. Now, what did Wally do? It's the same thing. Yes, there's no such thing as a curved adjacent. You can't get an angle from a curved adjacent. But after we get it, what does Wally do? He does the same thing. I live on a sphere. He assumes he's on a sphere after he measures it flat.
Well, he would
And
have
then he
done
says
had he
simple.
got that far here. I stopped him at the point he measured it flat and pointed out that he'd measured a flat Earth. However, in defence, in his damage control and in the comments, he seems to think that I was begging a question of a sphere Earth for him at that stage, when pointing out that his measurements used an elevation angle from a flat plane. So no, definitely not. But in their deluded minds, they still think that someone's got to be begging the question of a sphere Earth here, right? Obviously someone's doing it. Anyone, you've got to be doing it, right? No, you can't. You've got to start with a flat Earth to measure an angle. This is truly game over. And if they start begging the question of spheres and getting their angles and saying that they've come from tangent, what, the curved line that you haven't got anymore, Black Swan? Yeah, that's total game over. Who was it from Discord? Go ahead.
I said, I think that was the part that I was rolling on the floor laughing. It was just that he said, well, you're begging the question for me.
I didn't know when he was saying it that he thought I was begging the question on his behalf for a sphere Earth. Obviously, that's a typical behaviour of a flat earther, right? To beg the question on your opponent's behalf for a globe. No, we'll lay it out very specifically in something like Modus Tollens and then rip it to shreds after.
They do that a lot. Even the flat Earth fake pilot said at one point, no, it's not. It's your claim. I think you said, are you crazy? Something to that effect.
Yeah.
He was claiming his claim was your claim.
Yeah, they need to reverse the burden, beg the question, and they can't do any of it when it comes to measuring these angles on the ground. So nobody's begging the question of a sphere Earth. Nobody can beg the question of a sphere Earth. It doesn't work if you beg the question of a sphere Earth. You've got to start flat. It's just that simple. And you don't need to beg the question of a sphere Earth. It's all redundant. None of it's necessary. You can just move forth on your flat map with your flat plane and your angles that are straight and no curved adjacents and move around on the surface. It all works without any spherical assumptions needed. At all. And when they insert them with straight lines to tangent points they haven't got anymore. It's beautiful. Shout out to that flat fellow for the super chat. Really appreciate it.
Nathan, that's a good point. Why don't you do it, because we did it in the pre-show. Show one or two of those slides that show that 90 degree, just so the audience could see a picture to what you just said, because that was a great summary.
In order to measure this angle to this sun in this example, you need a flat baseline. If you're getting co-angle, i.e. measuring it from your zenith, you're still going to acquire the zenith from your flat baseline to begin with. And if you're minusing it off, so you've got 90 degrees at the GP of the star, in this case the sun, so you've got a box. So you need parallel lines along the bottom and parallel lines along the side, 90 degree angles, flat plane underneath, and this is your starting point. This flat baseline, that's your starting point. Now, after you do this, no sphere Earth assumptions are needed. None. In fact, you can't, because you've got a straight line to measure an angle. Flat Earth required. What's that you say? Well, yeah, we'll measure it flat. We'll beg the question after. No, you won't, not here. You don't get to beg the question here. So after you measure it flat, there's no excuse that we'll beg the question later, when this show for 3 or 4 straight years has made it explicitly clear. You don't get to beg the question here, especially after measuring a flat plane for your angle. Then you've just proven it's flat. Any evidence of a physical geometric sphere-edge horizon, formerly known as the curve of the Earth?
None whatsoever. You're going to need R for that. I've never seen it in my life. They keep saying it's there. However,
Any evidence of axial rotation of the Earth-based variety?
none. None of the Earth-based variety, and you still need an R for that.
Any
I
evidence?
did.
Go on.
I did start trail photography the last 2 nights. Beautiful images. I'm going to share in the future, and it's so obvious we're not moving and the stars are moving. It's just so obvious, and yet they want to reverse that.
Any evidence of the distance to the sun?
No, because they got that by using R. There's no R.
Any evidence of the R value? Earth radius?
Nope.
Haven't any gravity claims for a long while. Any scientific evidence of gravity?
You can hold me to it. None.
Feel free from Discord to join in. Any single viable hypothesis from any of the fields of astronomy, cosmology, or astrophysics?
All those fields work with R, so no. You could assume it though. You can measure something flat and assume it's a sphere, and you could look at stars and assume things, but no, there's nothing.
No, it won't. After you've measured it flat, yeah, that's where the end comes. There's no, oh well, but if I assume that angle is actually taking place as a tangent point I can't get because all lines are bent in a sphere Earth with sphere Earth air. No, that won't work because the assumption fails also, Black Swan.
Well, then it's not going to work in those fields when you ain't got R either, because everything is based on R, and as we've covered the math of their orbital mechanics and the distances from things and how they work in that paradigm of theirs. It's all gone. It's just blown to smithereens.
Any evidence of a self-perpetuating molten iron core at the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth?
Come on, John. I don't want to be the only one answering.
Sorry, I was cooking breakfast.
I'm trying to find out if Neil deGrasse Tyson answered my question. So,
Oh, you're looking for a reply in regards to any evidence that you can have or acquire an elevation angle with a curved adjacent?
correct.
Okay. Has he responded? I assume not.
Nothing.
Nothing. Bummer.
I'm being ignored. I thought I would have some weight with my first name being Neil.
Well, the answer to that is known, and he knows it. That's why he'll never answer it.
Coward.
We've had a few people from Discord in the last couple of shows regale us with the 3 questions that QE came up with in regards to acquisition of an elevation angle with a curved adjacent. And it's nice hearing people being, brave enough to take ballers. The last one was apparently Rumpus and I think George were taken through the steps, and they agree, they disagree, and then it's no.
You want me to read them for the audience?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay. Number 1. Are sextants used by mariners to successfully navigate using the relationship between the Earth's surface and celestial objects?
Yes.
Number 2. Are sextants used to obtain elevation angles from your position to celestial objects?
Yes.
Number 3. Can you obtain an elevation angle from a curved adjacent, curved baseline?
No.
Welcome to Flat Earth.
No. Yeah, Earth must be flat.
Can't make this stuff up.
Any evidence you can have gas pressure without the necessary antecedent of a container to press upon? For all the fundies who think space is real.
The most easiest one is that one. And you've said it, Neil said it the other week, and I shared it with a person a couple of days ago. You can't have any gas pressure next to an available volume that's called a vacuum, right next to it, without a barrier, because it will just dissipate into that empty space. And that's what they say we are. We have a vacuum of space next to Earth's gas pressure with no container, no barrier. Well, how is it staying on Earth? It would fill the available space. That's gas law. That's thermodynamics. That's obvious.
So that means we've got a new top three. Dun, 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 dun. Down 2 at number 3, it's gas pressure without a container. Obviously, you can't have gas pressure without a container, and if the sky was a vacuum, the gas we breathe would fill the space. Dun, 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 dun. Down 1 at number 2, it's the black swan. If the Earth were a sphere with a radius of 3959 miles, then every distance to horizon measurement could be no more than 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height in feet, and the distance in the black swan imagery is beyond the physical limitations of an Earth sphere radius 3959. Therefore, the Earth is not a sphere, and the horizon is not Earth curve. Dun, 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 dun. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, it's a new number 1. Any evidence you can have a curved adjacent whilst acquiring an elevation angle? Obviously not. The Earth is flat. Dun 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 dun.
Well done.
I think that concludes housekeeping. And also,
all right, Discord.
if anybody was wondering, Arwin's fine, he's just got computer issues, as people have been asking over the last couple of days.
Anyone in Discord want to comment on the housekeeping questions?
Yeah, anybody?
Is there
anybody been using these questions that QE put up, or any of the new arguments that have come about from the housekeeping question that's been added for 2020, technically speaking? I'm going to say it's added for 2022 rather, 2020? 2022. Yeah, I've had loads of fun with it. They can't have an elevation angle from a curved adjacent. Oh, well, that's good to hear. Who did you have over a barrel? Oh, this fundy over the 24/7 Discord, yeah, who's great. Oh, well, I'm pleased that you told us about that. Thanks. Such an active 13 participants that we've got in today's live stream Discord. Nope, sarcasm didn't work either, 10th, I'm afraid.
No. Well, we can fill in the time because basic geometry, angles, it doesn't work on a curved baseline. And QE put it together in a nice 3-question form, and it's got them stumped, Nathan, because they know the minute they start answering, it's over.
Yeah, you kind of, in your back of your mind, think, wow, the Black Swan argument is never going to be topped. You know, it's such a beautifully constructed argument that leaves no wiggle room. And the rebuttal is actually the debunking of the claim in the first instance. That's eloquent. You know, you've got to admire that. But you think, what could possibly be round the corner? Well, an argument that means they can't beg the question at all, rather than saying, oh, look, you're begging the question of a sphere Earth, in a modus tollens that debunks it. There's no begging the question with this. There's none. You can't. It's beautiful. I love this argument. I said it from day one. I like this argument so much.
You know what's funny is that the modus tollens and the Black Swan is putting their position out front and center in a very respectful way, saying if the Earth is a sphere with a radius of, and they're mad that we even do that.
Yeah, once you've debunked the physical tangent point horizon, that's Earth curve, there's no assuming it to readdress it as a straight flat baseline and say, well, no, look, if it's a straight line to a tangent point Earth curve edge horizon and I do these dip correction and height of area correction, then I've got a flat baseline to work with, just like Earth is. It's like, yeah, you haven't got a straight line to a tangent point anymore. Black Swan, what are you talking about? Don't you remember 2 straight years of barking refraction? That means you haven't got any straight lines. So what the hell are you talking about? Meanwhile, you can just acquire a horizontal by looking at the horizon, making any corrections for how high you are above the plane that you're going to be using with 90-degree angles, assumed at any altitude, to run parallel with the ground. That's a flat Earth right there. Can't be spherical because that would mean you'd have curved adjacents. Well, you can't get an angle from one of them. Can't get an angle from a curved Earth. Needs to be flat and is and works. No sphere needed. Got to be flat first. Epic.
You remember, Elijah, you there? Because Elijah brought it to our attention when it first happened.
Yeah, I mean,
You remember when back, I don't know how many months ago it was, but you came on the show and you said, oh my gosh, they don't want us to mention 90. You want to go over that? That was so awesome because I want to say something after you say it.
well, I mean, just to put it concisely, because I don't have the best audio right now. I was in Brandon's hangout one night, and this guy was talking about sailing. I was like, "Oh, so then you've used the sextant before?" And he's like, "Yeah." I said, "Well, you know that that proves a flat Earth." And he said, "First of all, don't you mention 90." It's basically saying that, you guys listen to the 10th man, none of you guys have sailed and you don't know what a sextant is. And if you mention 90, I'm going to blow my top.
Nathan, you want to put one of those slides up just as a backdrop that shows 90 from their own books,
Sure.
from their own sites?
Well, somebody else, I can't remember if it was also you, was saying that they had Zanuck absolutely flipping his top because someone kept pointing out that they couldn't acquire the angle he was detailing unless he had a flat baseline. And he kept on shutting the person down and getting very angry. And you're like, yeah. Long may it continue.
It's amazing because that guy came on your chat as well later on and was telling us we didn't know anything and we've never seen a sextant, we've never touched a sextant. And Adam came on the show holding a sextant, and then later I bought a sextant. So it's like they use it, but they don't know how it's supposed to work. And then we bring that to their attention and they get mad at 90 when their own books tell you it's 90.
No, Zanuck was yelling tangent at the people. Tangent.
Oh, right. Well, meanwhile, they don't have a tangent point horizon to get a straight line to, do they? Yeah? Let me wonder. What was the word they used? A refraction! So, what is it, Zanuck? No Atmo Day suddenly? Or maybe when I point that out, I'll be told it's very close to the geometric horizon. Well, what's that? How do we get that? We don't. So very close to something that doesn't exist. Yeah, you can't be close to something that doesn't exist. And if you can't measure it, it doesn't exist. That would be geometry, Earth measurements. So if you can't measure a geometric horizon, and we haven't got one, then you can't be very close to it to claim it's refracted, also still leaving you with no straight line to claim a tangent. You need a straight line, and it needs to be flat, and it needs to have 90 degrees to it, parallel with the sky roof. That's a box. Parallel with your zenith and the zenith of the GP of the star. That's a box. That doesn't work on a curved surface, and you haven't got a tangent anymore. What do you mean tangent? Tangent to what? Earth curve? Yeah, we debunked that with the black swan. Remember? Refraction? So no, definitely not a tangent.
So Nathan, the current picture you have up, I'll work on it for Monday just so you have it. But let's imagine the circle of equal altitude. So see where the sun is, put your mouse and bring it straight down to where it touches that flat baseline. So where Nathan's mouse will touch that flat baseline, that's the GP of the sun. And the circle of equal altitude will be equidistant, no matter where you took it from, if you're on that circle. So you see where the box is? That's the circle edge. And where Nathan's cursor is, that's the GP. And you still have the other part of that radius to the right that we're not showing. So that circle right there that he's doing is showing you a two-dimensional circle. And the radius from the sun to that person's GP is flat and straight. That's how it's done from their own books.
So yeah,
Over a
there's no
flat
getting
line.
around it, basically.
Epic.
It is epic because, you know, there's no denying their relinquishment of a tangent point horizon. You know, they have most definitely, most assuredly got rid of it when they said refraction. Bent line to the horizon's what they've been telling us. Black Swan, you say? No, bent line, bent line, bent line. Refraction, refraction. What is it? No Atmo day. That was their rebuttal. You'd only get to see a straight line physical geometric sphere edge if you removed all the air. Okay? So you're saying it's always a bent line. Yep. What are you, idiots? Why would you expect to see a geometric horizon? Never going to see a geometric horizon. Never going to have a straight line tangent point, Zanuck, if that's your response. Your own side's told us for 2 straight years how refracted it is, so no. Meanwhile, you do need 90 degrees. What's that? We should mention 90? Yeah. Because you won't have a parallel line either, will you, on a sphere? Yeah, it'll all be curving away from you. It won't work.
Their subject matter expert, Harold Jacoby from Columbia University, astronomy dean, has a great book out. I've shared it. QE shared it. He says it's a right angle triangle 90 degree. Well, what else could it be? They don't want to hear triangle or right angles either, not just 90. But, you know, they're afraid of the truth.
Yeah, truth being Earth is flat and they can't get around these angle measurements without first having a flat Earth underneath their feet. I wish I'd recognised it when Conspiracy Cats pointed it out in the immense implications that just slipped me by. Didn't slip QE by, props to him as well. But when you're like, I have to give you a flat Earth here to get this angle I'm going to base the rest of my argument on. You're like, hold on. Yeah, you can't do it unless it's flat at this point. You've lost. Shout out to Mark Leno. I hope I'm saying your name right. Probably not. Let's just bring up your super chat. If I prove a flat Earth, to whom do I give Bitcoin? Being that I can't get Bitcoin for proving anything else. If I prove a flat Earth, to whom do I give Bitcoin? Being that I can't get Bitcoin for proving anything else. Lols. I think that's kind of sarcasm because there's a lot of Bitcoin on offer to prove a globe Earth. I think that's the sentiment. Thank you very much for the super chat. Really appreciate it, Mark. Thank you very much.
Morning, guys.
Hey, Chocolate. Good to have you.
Thank you.
Hey, Chaco.
We're regaling each other with
Sup,
stories of
Tans?
Black Swan and curved adjacent victories. Have you had any on out and abouts that you've been on, Chocolate?
Say that again? I didn't get that.
We're giving each other our stories of victories where we've gone out and asked someone where they've got their angle. If they've got a curved adjacent, they can't have one, and so on. Have you got any of those sorts of stories?
What, asking somebody about their angle? Where they got a straight line for the angle?
Yeah, exactly.
Uh,
Or if you can remember any from the
not
show.
really. Oh, well, I mean, other than just freaking virus the other day, which was probably the best because he just destroyed himself just by John asking him, hey, where you get that radius for that Coriolis you were talking about? Angles to stars. Ooh. That sucks. But no, I don't. Yeah. Been fun.
So he put both angles to the stars, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
you don't. If you
He
put both
he
lines to the
definitely
star,
said-
no, you don't put both lines to the star. That doesn't give you an angle. It gives you one straight line.
I mean, right there, that's idiocy. Come on now.
Yeah, you can't talk about the other one. The other one runs parallel to the box that you're going to be measuring to if you've got the sky as a flat ceiling to get 90 degrees and co-angles. All of these things require it to be in a box. So he can't do that. So he stopped talking about the ground because at this point, this doesn't work because his ground's curving away from him at 8 inches per mile squared. So he can't do any of it.
Oh, stay away from the ground
has
again.
nothing to do with the shape of the Earth. He literally. I listened to that show again yesterday. I mean, it was probably one of the funniest ones that I can remember being a part of.
Yeah,
Right.
Nathan was on his all-time comedic role there.
Well,
That was
he's being asked
hysterical.
where he gets R from, and he's saying he gets it from this angle measurement. And then when he gets to the point that he's got to use a flat baseline to do it, he says it's nothing to do with the ground and nothing to do with the shape of the Earth. It's like, hold on, this started off with you telling us that you're going to get an hour measurement. That's from your presupposed spherical Earth's ground to the centre. But it's nothing to do with the ground and nothing to do with the shape, but I'm apparently getting R from this. Right up until the point that I have to actually say, I need a flat baseline for this. He wouldn't say it, so he kept on drawing 2 lines to the same star. That's what he kept doing at that point, rather than say, yeah, I've got to actually draw out a flat baseline here. I mean, better job than Wally did at defending the anti-flat Earth position, because he was like, yeah, of course I've got to draw out a straight flat line, it's on Earth. That's what he actually said.
And then he said, simple, done.
Simple, done. And we were like, right, so you've just proved a flat Earth yet? In his mind, he's like, no. Because in this discussion, you, the flat earther, you're assuming a globe, aren't you, mate? That's what he thought. He thought I was assuming a globe for him at that point. I'm not even joking. That's what his defence has been. I can't believe I'm saying it. It's so stupid. But that's literally what he said in my comments. No, you were begging the question for me.
So then how are they able to say refraction and still get a straight line?
They can't. That's the point. The moment they start assuming the sphere Earth and drawing tangent point horizons and then bringing them back up so they can have the 90 degrees, they've got to have a straight line to a tangent point horizon then. What is it, no Atmo Day? What's going on, globe believers? Talk about your flip-flop.
Nathan, I put it in, because I had to clip it out, so I put it in Master B.
What have you put in?
Master B.
No, what have you put in?
Oh, the other line being the same line.
Oh, okay. Oh, is it? It's a clip. Oh, I see.
Yeah, a little snippet of it.
So,
it was too funny. I had to.
Again, 2 lines makes an angle. The first line goes from your eye to the star, right? The second line goes from your eye to where?
The star.
You already
Wow.
put that line at the star.
Oh, my God.
That
Sorry,
one is
no,
already
maybe
gone
Brian.
to the star.
Sorry, Brian. Goes.
Yeah, I think we all heard enough to... Exactly. That's what he did, because at that point, he's got to draw a line along the ground, and he doesn't want to do that. So what's he going to do? If he's got this problem, where one of the lines is this line, it's your baseline, what's he going to do? Well, he's just going to keep drawing the same line over and over again, rather than say, yeah, I need a flat baseline for that. Because he's never going to do that as an anti-flat earther, is he? So suddenly his brain goes into meltdown and just draws one like syntax error. Zip, 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 zip. That's what he's doing.
Nathan, you ought to play that clip again that generated a super chat.
Oh, okay. I'll read the super chat after.
Neil, 1 second. So, start again. 2 lines makes an angle. The first line goes from your eye to the star, right? The second line goes from your eye to where?
The star.
You already
Wow.
put that line.
Shout out to Into the Break, is it? Into the Break.
Break.
Okay. Huh?
Break.
Break. Okay, fair enough. Damn, bruh, why you gotta make me do that? Proving a flat Earth, a cum virus. He didn't actually say that. That was me saying that. And I didn't even get the words
Why
right.
you walk me through this, Nathan?
Yeah, but
Why you walk me through this?
I feel guilty because I thought I'd parroted him verbatim, right? It was just me not understanding his American twang. And I said this yesterday. Travis, A Plain Truth, points out what he actually said. And I'm like, yeah, it doesn't matter. But if someone's going to put his name after that, it's not a quote. So, that's not fair. But thank you for the super chat.
It was still too funny.
It was funny. It's the sentiment. It's the fact that he was so exasperated and high-pitched at that point that I was mimicking. And it didn't matter what the words were.
High-pitched, any higher. If he would have went any higher, he would have started moonwalking.
If you're going to have an American twang, you're going to need a baseline.
Indeed, he did. So it's been an interesting couple of days. This has been the quietest day in the last week, right? I don't normally mention the day, but we're right at the end of the week now. It's Friday. And from last Sunday, when I went on Charles' show, all the way through the week, it's been nothing but eventful. And I've got loads of praise. Thank you to all the people in the comments, by the way. Lots of people saying, wow, this has been a week of really good shows. Sorry that if this one's been boring as hell. I don't know if it has. Got me doing a top 3. That's not bad. That's something, right?
No, it's like when you punch out the guy in the ring and the fight's over and no one's, the crowd goes away because they came to see the fight. They saw who won, and now it's time to celebrate and wait for the next bout. So that's where we are. We just knocked them all out. The fight's over until next week.
No.
Well,
Skip,
I have
they
to
knocked
say,
themselves. Hold on a sec. We didn't knock them out. They knocked themselves out when they
That's
took the
correct.
angle measurement.
Yeah, it's them snatching their own wig off continuously.
Yeah,
so
their first uppercut to their own face was telling us they've got no straight lines.
Nathan, I was going to just say that with the uppercut, but you got me there.
well, if you're talking about the show, I have to say that my wife has said that she misses the days when Brenda and them were on, because it was such a spanking all the time. It was entertaining, but now it's more educational now.
And new spankings.
I don't miss those days. I like today's days. I like the arguments being so strong that they're afraid to come on.
Well, it was just that it was so stupid if you listen to them shows.
It's more like self-beating, not spanking.
Yeah, I agree. I think they're self-flagellation at this point for the ones that come on that are old hat. I mean, the people who are relatively new, like Where's Wally, he's deluded himself. I don't know how. I'm not going to even postulate how he's come to the position that he was so wrong about winning. I mean, it beggars belief that he kidded himself in that big a way. I can't fathom a journey to get to that position that he was in, where he would get in so deluded and so cocksure, only to be absolutely annihilated. Basically, admit that he's not a glober. It's got to be a flat Earth. Of course it is. It's on Earth. Those are the things he gave us here. So, anybody, can you fathom how you'd get to that sort of place where you kid yourself that you're going to be winning Bitcoin with a really stone cold flat Earth proof? You're already admitted to your main opponent, Mitch, in this instance, that you're begging the question, and then you press on, go on a flat Earth debate show that's notoriously difficult if you're an anti-flat earther to win your point without begging the question, which all of them require, apart from this one, which actually proves a flat Earth in the first place, and then put that information forth only to be told by your flat Earth opponent that you're literally proving a flat Earth. And from there forward, your only rebuttal is to say, I assume you, the flat Earther, were assuming the globe for me. That's what he's come back with since. So how do you get there? And what kind of journey takes you there? Anybody, come on, fill me in. There's got to be some speculation.
Well, he did say he was a little shocked when you said welcome to flat Earth. He was like, how so? So, I just don't think they're getting it, to be honest with you.
I had a funny one the other day, guys, if I can tell you.
Oh, definitely. Please, one deck. Go ahead. Regale us.
Yeah, it's a guy called Alien Astro Dad. He's like a NASA freak space guy. So I got into a bit of a conversation with him, and I was asking him how he, can prove the R value with a curved adjacent. And this was going. It wasn't getting nasty or anything, but it kept going back and forward, and he kept saying you can do it with a curved base. So I was asking him, as a triangle got a curve, then is that what you're saying? Blah, 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 blah. I went back and forth, and I've got his text message back here now. I'll just read it to you. This was his answer. He said, take a huge ball, in brackets, meters in diameter, and put a rice of corn on it. Now measure the angle of the shadow by the rice corn. Do it on a second location to get the size of the ball. The thing is, as long as your stick is much smaller than your sphere, you can use the surface of the sphere as a flat surface without introducing error. So he's used angle and flat surface twice there. I just thought it was hilarious.
That's a nice presupposition.
So I just welcome him to flat Earth.
Hold on. I tried to follow along with that, but I didn't quite understand where the globe presupposition sandwiched in. But then when I was looking for it, you said, I'll use a flat plane. So maybe I'm missing it, because I didn't hear the actual presupposition worked into the angle measurement. It wasn't. It was declared, but it wasn't actually part of it. Am I wrong?
Well, he's basically saying use some rice corns on a big sphere to measure the angle.
Stop. Yeah, I got all that. When he said that bit, that's just the begging the question that what I'm doing now takes place on a sphere. So he's declaring his fundamentalist religious presupposition in the first instance. Yeah, that bit I got. But when it actually comes to the measurements of the angles, that isn't actually worked into it, is it?
No, he's just saying you can use the surface of the sphere as a flat surface, which doesn't make any sense whatsoever.
No, it does make perfect sense because they can't use a sphere. So they're saying, in this instance, we must beg the question of a flat Earth. So with all his declarations of it being a globe by presupposition, what he's actually doing is measuring a flat Earth by his own admission.
This is what they've come to.
That's exactly what he's doing. He's saying you need a ball big enough compared to that rice corn or whatever, so that it's flat compared to it, so you can get that angle. It's hilarious.
Yeah, he's admitting it's an angle and he's admitting it's flat, but he's a glober.
This is why I love this argument. There isn't. I said it was accessible to all levels of understanding of flat Earth. So if you're just coming into the subject, you're like, I realise I'm being lied to. NASA haven't got any pictures. It's got to be flat. If you're like your standards that low, right? In other words, you've got virtually nothing. You could come to this argument, pick it up, throw it in the face of the most talented globe-defending Muppet, and have them tell you at the end of it how flat Earth is. That's what this argument offers.
It's
Wait
amazing.
a second, but with that large sphere, and he puts 2 rice kernels down, correct? Now, what does he do from there? Because you went out on me a little bit.
Measures angles off a flat surface. By the time the ball's big enough for it to be flat, he can then start measuring angles.
Now measure the angle. He's telling you to put it on a sphere and now measure the angle.
If I assume I've got a sphere big enough to assume that it's no longer spherical and I can ignore that aspect of the sphere completely so that it's flat and I can get an angle from it, then I can get an angle from a sphere. But you're not getting an angle from a sphere then, yeah? You're just taking your sphere and making it as flat as you possibly can. You're making it flat. And that's the ground we're talking about.
And then he wraps it up. You can use the surface of a sphere as a flat surface without introducing error. This is a proper globe guy. This is a proper globe.
Wait, John's saying something.
No, it makes perfect sense. It makes perfect sense. So if you go out to the GP of the star and you have a flat baseline, the ground would be falling away from your flat baseline, but the linear distance over the curve when you get to underneath the star would be at a different angle, right? So if you created 2 triangles from those points, you'd end up with, I would say, approximately 1 degree off, right? And a lot of their arguments are, if it was flat Earth, it's 1 degree off from what the globe Earth should be. You see what I'm saying?
What, they reverse it in terms of where the error lies?
No, let me explain. Have you guys ever seen the missing square triangle puzzle? What essentially it is, it's a triangle where the bottom is 8 long, and then the side is 5 tall, I believe. And it looks like there's a missing square when you rearrange the triangles. But what it is that the top triangle is 1 degree off from the other, and you end up with an entire square volume area that you can disappear. And so if you have a 90 underneath the star, right, which is assuming a flat baseline and a flat linear distance to the base of the star, if you had a curved linear distance to the base of the star, it would have an extra distance to it, right? And this is where they claim, I can't get these distances to fit on a flat Earth.
Okay, that's the second time I heard it. It made a bit more sense. Okay, but no, because then you've got the contradiction at that point. Because then you can't get a 90. You're saying, well, if it was comparable to the extra angle that you'd have with the curved surface underneath, but then you're not acquiring 90 degrees anymore, are you? If that's the assumption.
That's correct.
No, you can if you hypothetically imagine the line piercing through the Earth. So you have one triangle, right, which is horizontal baseline.
Hold on.
And then you have another triangle, which is 1 degree down, but it still has a flat baseline.
Hold on. 10th got there before you could get to the end of your statement. He jumped in with a chord, right? You'll need half of that.
Right. You take those two triangles and you match them up, and you end up with the assumption of a greater distance between point A and point B, which is where they get this idea where the curved, paths can't work on a flat Earth. They're like, the distance between these cities is such, and it's off a little bit from what it would be if it's flat, so it must be curved. But they're getting these distances over the water based on angles to stars. And so they have a differential in their two triangles where they can create more distance, but it only exists in their math or in their mind. Like the flat ground that you're traveling across is still the same distance. But if you infer the distance you're going from the stars, then you're going to end up with an error.
Gotcha.
No. The GP of the star or sun, say, is 3,000 miles away from the observer. The total diameter would be 6,000. So the subpoint GP of the sun to the observer is measured from the zenith angle. The zenith angle is the second calculation because the first one is the measurement with the sextant of the altitude. So if you have an altitude, then you minus that from 90. It gives you the co-altitude. Now, those are what I call the sky miles because it's the angular relationship of the star and your zenith. That distance is the zenith distance. And if that's 3,000 miles, that's 3,000 mile radius of the circle of equal altitude, all flat. How many grains of rice do you need? Where's the curve start ever then?
And I think
I'll have to make a graphic for you.
I think the biggest problem with your statement was imagine that part that it's piercing through. And that's the thing. They're not imagining when they're seeing that, right? They're doing 90. They're not imagining, it's curving away.
Right, but they're imagining that the ground is still curving below that 90. So when you get out underneath the star, right, their line going down to the surface of the Earth is going to have an angle bending inwards towards them.
Is that in the manual?
Yeah, again, 10th jumped in.
No, it's irrelevant. It's irrelevant. What I'm saying is that...
Hello. Yeah, you're going to have to wait just till the right moment, 10th, because you're saying the right thing, but no one's hearing it. Where'd you get the angle? At that point, that fails. How'd you acquire the angle with a elevation angle from a curved surface?
Well, the reason I'm saying this, and again, it's because whoever's talking is not thinking through what is necessary to even start the process. If it's impossible, why even talk what he's saying? Just shut it down. Where'd you get the angle? The tool doesn't work.
What I'm explaining is that this shows where they get extra distance between 2 points.
What shows
if you travel out to your point that you're saying is the GP of the star, right? In order to be where your angle intersects at 90, you would have to be in the air, would you not?
Hang on, I'm so confused the way you're talking. Rephrase it to where I can understand it, because what you're telling me is that you're taking.
Let me help you. So what he's saying
I'll take a minute and draw
after they've foregone the conclusion that you can only achieve an angle on a flat plane, after they've slipped that by and begged the question of a sphere, the inaccuracy of the math is then put back on the flat earther thereafter, I think is what he's saying.
Well, that's nonsense.
No, I don't think so. I suggest that, and he said no.
Yeah, it's roughly that. What you end up with is two triangles that are off by a degree, and it creates extra distance. And it's an assumption of extra distance because you're assuming the surface is curved.
Okay, now you're listen. A box. Is there any curvature to a box?
No, we have covered this in terms of the rebuttal. It's always the same rebuttal. Yeah, he's explaining how they try and get around this in terms of they're describing the wiggle room they need when they dissect with a chord with an assumed R value, and then you've got a differential in terms of the measured distance, and then it's reversed so that it's put on us that
Yep.
difference is actually our problem.
Yep. So
They can't
for
even
tenth
get
man,
the-
if you traveled out to be underneath the star, where the star is directly above you. Okay, so you look at the star, you shoot your position, you use the flat baseline and everything, right? You would assume a certain distance to the general position of the star. Notice how it's a general position. Now, if you
Hang
go
on,
out there to the
Hold
star,
on, 10th, just let him finish.
He just already, I'm sorry, but he said if I'm directly under the star, I wouldn't be using a sextant. I'm directly under it.
No,
So you shoot the star,
10th
then you
man, you
travel
need to
its
calm your shorts. You need to calm your shorts and let me finish my sentences because you just mischaracterized what I said. I said if you travel out,
let's
so
just
you
try and
shoot
get
the
some charge
sextant
again.
from
Okay, right.
shoot the sextant from far away.
Oh,
right?
God. It's not going to work if you try and take charge. 10th, just let him get to the end of his statement. Okay. Citation police. Go ahead.
Okay, so you shoot the general position of the star from far away. You're using a flat baseline. You assume a 90 below it. You get your distance, right? Then you travel out to the star, which obviously the star would move because of time, but let's assume the star stayed exactly where it was. You travel out to the star, you're supposedly, in their worldview, traveling on a curved surface. So when you get directly below the star, in their worldview, that straight up and down would be tangential to the previous position. So when they get there, you end up with a 90, which you had shot in the beginning, and then you end up with a slightly different tangent right there. Okay, now if you reverse engineer that back into the distance you assumed you traveled, you would believe in your mind erroneously that you traveled a greater distance. And if you tried to make a triangle out of it over different points, you would end up with their little curved lines don't work on a globe. So what they've done is they've created an imaginary extra distance between point A and point B. Do you follow that?
It's very difficult to follow what you're saying because it's so full of nonsense, and I know you're repeating what they're saying, but you were wrong in the first phrase.
He's not wrong. I know.
Let me finish.
Just stop a sec. He's explaining their position, so just try and phrase it such that you don't antagonize.
I just said that. I just said he's saying that. I know he's not saying it himself, but an elevation angle, the altitude, is not the distance. That's what you need to find the distance after you minus it from 90. The zenith distance is what you're interested in, and you can't even get it unless you're working on the flat plane to get the elevation angle first.
Yeah. But it leaves them with a multitude of problems, and this is just him explaining how they're trying to get around one of these problems. Now, trying to get around one of these problems so they can sit in a discussion forum and explain how they might be able to get around it with that description won't alter the fact that if it was ever put to us, we'd just say, you need 90. What are you talking about? Won't work with a curved surface. It's the end of the argument, right, 10th?
Yeah, well, not only that, but he said, they said, so I'm not saying he's saying it, and I never thought he was saying it, all right? But I get sick of the rubbish because you can't even do it. You can't even get an angle without baseline. So it's over there, just like you shut them down right away. Where'd you get the angle? But then they said, and he's repeating them, is that, okay, so you shoot the altitude of the star and say it's 3,000 miles away. It's GPTU once you do the minus 90. But then you somehow get underneath that star, even though it's moving, and now you're directly under. We're not talking about celestial navigation here. We're talking about people who are spiraling because they don't have a globe Earth.
That's right. That's right. That's what I've asked for, though. What have we got? What's been in discussion? Thank you very much, Citation Police, by the way, because that's precisely what I've been asking for. Yeah. What are they coming up with? Well, what they're coming up with isn't an overcome for the problem. It's a justification after the fact. And this is their justification after the fact.
Yeah.
Which doesn't in any way overcome the argument. It still has to assume a flat plane. It's brilliant. Even in the overcome, they've still got the flat Earth. It's great.
Right. Sounds to me like they're reversing. Like saying, see, this can't work on a flat Earth.
Neil, Citation Police is talking. Just let him have his moment, please.
For for 10th man's point is you never could shoot a star at its position and then travel out to it and be directly under it at the position you shot it because the sky's moving. But if you put it in a little orthographic projection, right, and you assume that constancy, you can draw your little globe assumption in there, right, and you'll have a differential in angle, which will cause you to assume there's a greater linear distance between you and the star. And then you take those angles and you reverse engineer them and call them, nautical miles or whatever. And then you end up telling people, to get from point A to point B is a greater distance than it would be in a flat Earth.
Exactly.
I know what's
That's what I
going
was
on
just
here.
saying.
Well, that's wonderful. That's
Hello,
wonderful.
everyone.
I've got about 30 books on celestial navigation that I'm staring at here. I've never seen that. I'd like the citation, please, for that one.
No,
It's not site-worthy.
nonsense.
This isn't site-worthy.
I can explain this.
This is just their discussions after the fact to try and get around the problems that are induced when they measure a flat Earth and then assume that there's a globe underneath it and the difference that problem creates. Then they try and explain that problem that was created when they measured a flat Earth. So I want to hear this stuff. I don't want you to jump down his throat. I'm so grateful that we're getting this.
I'm not jumping down.
Can I give some clarity to
Yeah, Brian.
I'm going to round.
Communication.
I was just about to round out the live show, but you can have the last word, Brian. Go ahead. Thank you for joining, by the way.
Yeah, thank you. I'm driving, so I can't speak all the time. What that man, the citation police, is speaking about there is the globers using the Haber sign formula. If you notice, I've been on jumping down the next of those who are using that, the Haber sign formula, where they take a straight line and they curve it and make it a greater distance, and then they claim that the straight line distance is wrong. That's what that man is talking. He's talking about from an orthographic view. I take on a globe, I take an angle to a star, which I can't do because it's a globe, and then I put another angle. The star's zenith then is divergent to my zenith, and then I put another angle from that, and that creates a greater distance. It's total nonsense. It's backward engineering, so to prove a globe. It's backward mathematical engineering to prove a distance on a globe, and that's all it is.
But they can't get an angle. But they can't get the angle in the first. Hold on. But Brian dropped it in. Hello. Brian dropped it in the middle, which is an angle they can't get. So can you just reiterate that, and then I'll round out the live show and ask everyone to stay tuned.
Yeah, they want a curved surface, so they can't get this angle. They need one straight baseline, and they can't do that. So the whole thing is down the toilet. Perfect. But they're just mathematically trying to prove a globe.
Perfect. With an angle they can't acquire off a curved surface. With that, I'm going to say, if you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley premiering streams, then stay tuned, as there will be an after show to follow. A huge, massive, enormous thank you to both Discord and G+ panels for making today's live show possible. And of course, a massive thank you to all of you in the live stream audience for hopefully smashing the super chat, liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, joining as a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member, and all that good stuff. Once again, stay tuned if you're watching on a premiering stream. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.
What a lovely day!
That's why he had to get. I'm glad that he got all of that out, because how am I going to answer to that if I don't know the answer? It's like, oh, okay, well now I can say, yeah. Well, basically, what you've done is mathematically input something that you can't possibly get in the first place because of your point. You need a 90.
Exactly. You need a 90, and they don't got it.
Right? They don't have a 90, and they haven't got any straight lines, and we've debunked R. So this is a complete fail.
It's an imagination.
One thing that they don't have, and they consistently don't have, is geometric validation of their claims that they've reversed engineered from the optical world.
To put it
You know, so you
another
look-
way, they don't have R, right?
Correct.
Right.
Is that Overlord?
It's
Citation
police.
Hey, Nathan.
Yeah. what's good, brother?
I think so, Chuck.
I know
Yeah.
who it is. What's good, brothers? I haven't
We
heard
know
from you
that
in a while.
voice.
Yeah, bro.
No doxing people with their former fake name, please.
That's Erasmus
father of a stolen
Bennington right
child.
there from 359.
Hey, I got a new name. I got a new name. Check this name out. The Horizon, formerly known as R.
Yeah, it's true.
That's a good one.
There's a good pun in here. The 10th foot, are you tired? Where you at? Like, ships going to the horizon.
No.
The pirate, the pirate sees the horizon and goes, "Arr!"
No, when you're messing with the sexton, take this all serious.
Okay, look, guys, I'm trying to say something here. I got to go make breakfast for my wife because of her hand, but I've got a website up on Master B. Nathan, click on it. It's called the Paper Plate Education. Read it and hit every picture of those paper plates. It says the contents of this site may be reproduced for nonprofit educational purposes only. Please cite the contributing author in credits. And please do. I'll be back.
I'll be back.
That gentleman that was speaking about them adding in an extra angle in order to increase the distance over a flat plane to then say it's a sphere. I wonder if that has anything to do with their claim of dip correction.
Yeah. Let me tell you why. So Zanuck thinks that once you get a certain altitude, the horizon dips below you, which proves a globe. But what he's basically saying is something below you, right, physically below you, renders in your image below your center point, right, which makes perfect sense. So that really doesn't convince anybody. So he says but it goes at a greater angle than it would be at a flat Earth, and it's off by 1 degree. Right, so he thinks the variation of 1 degree proves that it's a curved surface, right? Because the point A distance to point B.
What's he using? He's using a physical, geometric, sphere edge horizon.
Which we debunked.
But that's,
hold on, we need clarity. Sorry, maybe it's my bad. I need to check with citation, please, before I jump the gun. Is it no Atmo Day?
Right, because that's the point. It's like, how can you be sure it's off by 1 degree if you're claiming that it's constantly refracted? You can never see the geometry. So your 1 degree of error that Mr. Riceball Boy claimed demonstrates that you can operate on a huge globe as if it's flat. Well, you can also operate on a flat surface as if it's flat. So why assume the globe at all?
Well, they can't. There's no justifiable way to assume a sphere when you're measuring in a box Euclidean. You can't assume a sphere. That's the first problem. The second problem is when they try and justify it as you've described, they're justifying it with a geometric horizon, Black Swan. We've debunked it. If the Earth was a sphere with a radius 3959 and a sphere edge for a horizon to measure an R value with, then every distance to that horizon could be no more than the geometry dictates. And the Black Swan shows it's miles beyond that. So it's not a physical geometric sphere edge horizon to make this claim with, as Zanuck is doing. Yeah, have we all forgotten 20 months of refraction? Spot on, citation police. So you basically hammered this into them.
Yeah, so another way to bring this full circle is the brick at a distance disappearing, and then you stack more bricks on it, and then you can see a red brick wall, but you will never be able to see the bottom brick.
My favorite.
Because remember, I know Nathan remembers this. Back in the day, M. Scott Veach and Zanuck both said that their main belief in the globe, like what's really in their soul of why they believe it, is that they feel that they've experienced the curve of the Earth when they've seen the bottoms of things disappear, because there's no other way the bottoms of things could disappear.
Yeah,
that's like the linchpin of their faith.
You show them a toy boat at 50 yards. with the diffraction limit reaching and breaching at the bottom of the boat. And then they've got a whole list of things that can attribute the reason for that disappearing. But when you go beyond the limitations of their physical geometric sphere edge horizon known as Earth curve, it can only be Earth curve that's causing it.
I remember that.
Should we play a clip of that?
Have you got one to hand?
Yeah, I got one in hand.
Check out Chocolate. I love it.
Chocolate's on point.
Yeah, it's perfect. I just did it to Xanax last night, actually.
These people are getting pummeled. That's what I was hoping for in the live show, Citation Police. This kind of story. I know it's set off 10th because he's, triggered at the responses you're giving us that they've given you. And I don't blame him because it is nonsense and it needs inserting every single step of the way. But, you're a friend rather than a foe. You're just telling us what you've learned on your travels. And what you've got and given us is hard to acquire sometimes. You've got to sit through a lot of crap to get that, right?
Right.
Yeah, so thanks. And I'm not knocking you either, 10th man. I love your passion.
It'll be a Master B when it loads up.
10th man is making breakfast for his wife.
No, but if he listens to this back, he'll just so he knows that I'm not knocking him for. It's the same
Okay, I'm
principle
back.
with you, Neil. When Neil was like, oh well, I won't do this, that, and the other. It's like, no, you carry on as you were.
Hello.
Hello, 10th. Hello. Did
Yeah,
you
I'm
hear,
back.
hear us blowing smoke up your ass and want to join in?
No, but if you like me, I like it.
Co-altitude from 10th. No, that. Oh, here we go. From Chocolate saying, pop yourselves on mute.
No, let you talk, bro. they can't help
Indio,
themselves.
unorthodox Indio.
Oh, that was India?
No, we can't tell.
Yeah, that was Indio. Dude.
Unorthodox and
Yes.
Indio. Unorthodox and Indio.
Yeah. So, how does a boat disappear in 500 feet when the globe model predicts the horizon is 2,600 feet away? So, what's blocking the boat if it's not at the horizon yet? I don't see anything blocking the boat. I see the resolution. I see the camera being unable to resolve the boat. Welcome to Flat Earth.
Welcome to Flat Earth, my friend. Snacks to the back, bathrooms to the left. DJ's taking requests, and smoke them if you got them. Welcome, unorthodox. Unorthodox.
It doesn't disappear. It just unresolved.
You just snatched your own wig off.
I don't see anything blocking the boat. I see the resolution. I see the camera being unable to resolve the boat. But
Unorthodox.
It doesn't disappear. It just unresolved.
You just snatched your own wig off. Unorthodox.
Look, this video I just.
There it is.
Classic.
Whereas in the Earth curve calculator, there's only one cause for things disappearing bottom first. That cause is Earth curve. Now, if the Earth curve calculator doesn't quite match up with where the physical geometric sphere edge horizon should be getting in the way, they'll refract the target, quote, with respect to the horizon. That's Earth curve. However, there is still only one assertion being made in regards to why things disappear. Nothing to do with angular size. Diffraction limit, you say? Unorthodox? No. In your maths, the target stays the same size at all distances. So that boat, if it's a 50 centimetre boat right in front of you, it's a 50 centimetre boat at 1,000,000 miles away. And the only reason it can disappear bottom up is because the Earth curve's got in the way. So when it happens prior to your Earth curve assertion, and that's a very real problem that suddenly starts justifying with optics, when he's got a geometric claim. Yeah, the Earth curve calculator was debunked in 2015.
But that was the best part of that response that he gave, was that was his argument. That's the only way. That's the only reason something would disappear bottom up. It's because of the Earth curve. That's why Neil even asked him the question and gave him the example of the boat on the lake. For him to destroy himself like that with that response is fantastic.
Well, when you're unable to resolve something, what can you use as one word to describe that? Disappear?
Unresolved.
No, disappeared.
Disappeared.
You're not able to resolve it.
Invisible.
Yeah, diffracted.
I went
Yeah,
onto
so a
Gem
reason.
and explained the same thing to Gem Panda server,
and they were arguing that our demonstration of a RC boat was showing that a 4-inch wave can hide a 4-inch boat. And they're saying we're just being deceptive, that we went and parked the boat behind a little ripple in the water that was the same size as the boat, so it's completely disingenuous.
But again, that's an argument that involves perspective, right? There's a ripple that's larger in the foreground. Well, no, that ripple is a 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 centimeter ripple. Okay? Well, the boat's 50 centimeters, right? Well, if you're going to describe it in terms of its relationship in the foreground versus the boat in the background, that's a perspective description. Well, you don't have that description if you've got you above both of those heights. So if you're looking at the boat and your position with the camera is, I don't know, a meter, well then, according to what they're describing with a, 10 centimetre wave and a 50 centimetre boat, well, how can there possibly be a case where the one gets in the way of the other? In Muppet vision, it won't. Ever. Because you've got one line drawn between you and the target, and the target's never going to change in its actual size in their maths. 50 centimetre versus 10 centimetre versus you observing at a metre. Well, in Muppet vision, no obstruction. But the moment there is prior to Earth curve, they start detailing the optics of it. No, that's not in your Earth curve maths. Not at all. Yeah, how can you describe that relationship? Go ahead.
It's not only a coincidence that the same guy on Orthodox came here and told us, oh, what about optics, Nathan? When asked about the Black Swan. Oh, it's just optics.
Yeah, we're debunking their geometry. And he's asking us about optics. It's like, yeah. It's almost as bad as saying refraction, because when you say refraction, you're asserting that you're not looking at the geometry. That's your claim. It's a geometric claim. It's like almost as stupid as AB science saying we wouldn't expect to see geometry. Or planar walk. No one's expecting to see physical geometry. It's like, yeah, you are. That's what your Earth curve math says you're expecting to see. Physical geometry called Earth curve. That's exactly what you're expecting to see, but you'll renounce it.
You nailed it with the Muppet vision, because every person who's tried to tackle that thing, they won't use the 50 centimeter and 10 centimeter example. They always want to use a 20 centimeter wave blocking a 20 centimeter boat. Because in Muppet vision, you would need at least 20 centimeters of wave to block that 20 centimeter boat. And they cannot think about a 10 centimeter wave blocking the 50 centimeter boat. They refuse to go to that point.
It won't do it in Muppet vision.
But I thought nothing blocked boats except Earth curve.
Exactly, that was my original point. They'll start detailing optics because they've got to excuse it, not realising that when they do so, they're relinquishing what we started this conversation with, M. Scott Veitch's declaration that I've seen physical obstruction from bottom up, therefore Earth curve. We've debunked that notion. The horizon is an Earth curve. It's beyond the limitations of the geometry, not the bloody optics, which is what they come to the defence of it with when we debunk the geometry, which is what they're claiming. This is anti-flat earthers that don't realise that when they start saying optics or refraction, well, not geometric then. Your claim's a geometric Earth curve edge, getting in the way. A wall, a hill, physically blocking stuff called Earth curve. The moment you push that beyond the things it's supposed to block, it's not Earth curve anymore.
Yeah, Solar's correct. Some dude in Jim Pandas yelled at me when I tried to compare them, saying, "Oh, it could be waves, could be the angle of the camera, could be anything." And I'm like, "Well, how is this different from the Black Swan when you think that the geometric horizon is blocking the one that they always show?" And he said, "You don't understand the difference between a 6-inch wave blocking a 6-inch or boat or however it was versus a 3-inch wave not being able to block a 100 something foot platform." And so I thought that was the dumbest thing he could ever say, because my however many inches thumb could definitely block the moon. So
yeah, exactly.
It depends.
Exactly. Well, not the moon was probably the weak part, but yeah, if you've got a camera on an iPhone that's a couple of mil above a platform that you raise it on, and that same level plane that you put it on, the camera's viewpoint, has something that's more than 3 or 4 millimeters, i.e. however high the lens is, in front of it, it will block everything. But in their mind, it won't, because in Muppet vision, it can't.
Keep telling us how. Go ahead, man. I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Chocolate.
No, you're good. You're good. I gotta do something at work.
Yeah, they don't like the RC boat because then they have to claim probably refraction, right? So refraction is now blocking bottom of boats.
Exactly.
Is that what happens?
Yeah. So refraction's the thing that's blocking the boat on a given day, is it? Not Earth curve then. Not your geometric claim of physical Earth curve.
Yeah, Akuma doesn't want to answer. He doesn't want to answer in the chat. I showed him she lowered the camera, right? Is that what happened, Akumu? She lowered the camera. You can see through the darn boat.
If she lowered the camera, then you've still got a geometric sphere edge horizon claimed at 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height in feet. That differential's calculated and asserted to give you physical geometry blocking things in the distance. Yeah? We've just debunked it. Black Swan. It would be a hill in the way. And as you lowered, it would get more in the way. You wouldn't wake up one day and find the hill that's supposed to be in the way because it's so physically blocking things is miles beyond the stuff it used to block the day before. That never happens.
And if it does, you might want to move out of that area.
Don't you see that when Andrew Thomas Young said that all his refraction studies were done on the plane, that's the cat out of the bag? He's telling you, I never got this from a spherical surface, guys. I got it.
But what do we have to do, Tim? What do we have to do?
We have to take geometric. Yes.
Oh man.
That's why it's a thought experiment. They don't, and they never have seen the geometric horizon.
No, we wouldn't expect to see geometry. Nobody's expecting to see geometry that's physical. But we will take geometric considerations for things we can't see. Why? Well, because we've got a globe belief. We're in a religion. We're in a cult. So even though we can't see any geometry, that's measurements of Earth, even though they're not real and we wouldn't expect to see them, we'll consider them.
Unless Effie Pilot's in here and he could tell us how they got the geometric horizon on the moon.
Well, hold on. Can we go back to the original claim? Because I don't. If you don't know how the original claim is constructed, it might be confusing as to how they're standing against it.
Go on then, sum it up.
The assertion is the horizon is a physical obstruction, and you can use tangential geometry to acquire a distance for your altitude. That is what the initial claim is of the Earth being a sphere.
Right.
And you draw a line from your eye to the horizon, you create a triangle presupposing it's a sphere to get your radius measurement. Not a refracted line, a straight line.
Correct. That's why I say it's a geometric claim they're making. Now, they don't realise that the moment they are deviating from straight in this regard, refracting a line that is required in their claim in the first instance, they've lost. Now, this was the conversion point for John, who's just given you that excellent summary, because I just say it's a geometric claim. In other words, you've got a physical obstruction, and they're claiming tangential geometry to prove that physical obstruction they're claiming. Well, the moment they go away from it being a physical geometric obstruction, refracted, it isn't conducive with the claim anymore. Furthermore, you can't then assert you've got some sort of physical relation to your fundy sphere belief because you haven't got any measurements in reality anymore. There's nothing to hang your hat on with your sphere belief. It's just that, a belief at that point, because there's no measurements anymore.
John, can you repeat that statement again? The tangential?
Yeah, tangential geometry, drawing a straight line from your eye that you would consider a tangent, point where it meets a sphere, a straight line meets a sphere. creating a 90 at the horizon, assuming it goes to a presupposed center of Earth, and that you're.
Okay, that's all I needed. That was great. All right, so the sextant says that 90, that box emanates from the GP of the sun or a star that's 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 miles away. Can you see 3, 4, 5,000 miles away with your eye?
No.
Okay, so that radius of that circle of equal altitude is a straight line coming to the observer, and directly where they meet, the zenith of the sun creates the GP to that bottom baseline. That's where the box is. There's your 90, 3,000, 4, 5,000 radius circle of equal altitude, all straight to the observer. The sextant destroys that imaginary world of theirs.
I still quite enjoy watching them have to assume it's flat to move forward in this particular discussion, because it really does make them squirm. Anyone else getting a bit of pleasure out of that?
Yeah, they just
Loving it.
detach. They detach the flat horizontal baseline that they need to use their angle from the obvious curvature of the Earth. So they keep arguing with me that they can have a flat baseline. It's sort of at waist height. And then it's irrelevant what the floor is actually doing because I've got this flat baseline. It's prior to doing the dip angle correction. But they keep arguing, yes, you got the flat horizontal baseline, but it doesn't have to exist on the sea level. And that's the only way that they can wriggle at the moment without accepting that that flat baseline is sea level.
If it's floating in the middle of the air, then that would imply that they've acquired it by way of a tool, like a bubble sextant would, or an artificial horizon, and therefore there is no dip correction. The dip correction's to get you down to the ground. So if they're saying it's hovering in midair, well then no. You're not
How
doing
do they
dip
think they
correction.
have a baseline in midair?
Well, you can do
No,
that.
it's a horizontal.
You can do that if you establish a horizontal with a plumb line or a bubble sextant or any other tool. Then that's absolutely fine to utilise that with the 90 degree to give you your horizontal baseline, and then you can make your angle measurement from a plane. You know, that's why they use bubble sextants. There's nothing wrong with that. But my point is that at that stage, if you're doing it in midair, so you're at 30,000 feet, you've established your horizontal baseline by way of a bubble sextant, so you don't need the horizon. But then there's no dip correction to do.
Precisely. All you need is a horizontal to act as the baseline. And if you do it with a bubble sextant or an artificial horizon, and by the way, a bubble sextant is an artificial horizon, but then there's the other artificial horizon that's a pan with some liquid in it. There is no dip required. But again, when you use the natural horizon, you must account for dip, because what height are you? You got to get to that water line. These are all in their books and manuals. So to dip or not to dip, remember that?
But on that note, I'm going to round out. So I'm going to say another huge, massive, enormous thank you to both Discord and G Plus panels for making today's after show possible. And of course, a massive thank you to all of you in either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley premiering streams for hopefully smashing the super chat, liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, joining as a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member, hitting the PayPal link, all that good stuff. Also, below this video, you can get £50 for swapping your UK electricity supplier to Octopus Energy, and this is a particular note if you drive an electric vehicle. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.